Burundi under fire for allegations of torture at the hands of security forces. Does the East African nation deserve a place on the UN's Human Rights Council? I'm Imran Garta, and today's newsmaker is Burundi unrest. Human rights organizations are blasting the UN for allowing Burundi to remain on its Human Rights Council. Violence broke out in the East African nation when President Pierre Nkurunziza ran for a third term, a move the opposition said was unconstitutional. Almost immediately, the government fought back criticism with batons and bayonets. And the UN's own investigators, as recently as last week, say critics of the government are routinely abducted, tortured and killed. Burundi's government denies the accusations, saying the facts on the ground don't support the allegations out of Geneva and New York. Natalie Perhonen has more.
Burundi is placed at the heart of Africa. It's one of the 5 poorest nations in the world. But poverty isn't Burundi's biggest challenge. Instead, it's a political crisis, which has seen hundreds killed and more than 400,000 people flee to neighbouring countries. It was triggered by incumbent President Pierre Nkurunziza running for a third term in 2015. The constitution has a 2-term limit on the office. Burundians have marched in their thousands as a show of faith in their president. But the space for dissenting views has shrunk. And now there's a growing number of allegations of human rights violations. Last year, authorities stopped allowing UN investigators into the country to examine those claims. But this month, the UN said Burundian security forces and allied militia groups, including the government's youth wing, the Imbonerakure, have deliberately targeted opposition supporters.
Nous avons en particulier recueilli un grand nombre de témoignages.
We most specifically gathered a number of testimonies alleging the use, during torture sessions, of clubs, rifle butts, bayonets, iron bars, metal chains or electric cables, resulting in some cases in the breaking of bones of the victim or making them lose consciousness.
The government denies all of the allegations.
We see that it's a prolongation of the UN's independent investigation on Burundi findings that the government considers biased and politically oriented. The government refutes the lies presented in the different findings as well as their partiality.
The government also says the accusations are an attempt to destabilize the nation at a time when it's attempting to restore peace and stability. But will it be possible to achieve that goal when the security and rights of all Burundians are in doubt? Natalie Perhonen, The Newsmakers.
Well, joining us now from London is Burundi's ambassador to the UK, Ernest Ndabashinze, and from Ottawa, Audace Gatavu. He's a Burundian human rights lawyer and activist currently in exile. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure having you, both of you, on the program. Audace, let me begin with you, sir. Does Burundi still deserve to be on the UN Human Rights Council?
Yeah, it doesn't deserve to be sitting with the other countries that respect human rights, and that should be the model. And because today the government is challenging all the decision and of the Human Rights Council, and it's kicking out literally the UN from his country. So I don't think this is a country that should sit in the Human Rights Council.
Ambassador Ndabashinze, does your government still deserve to be on the Human Rights Council?
Yes, absolutely. The problem we have today is that we face many biased and politically motivated reports. If those investigators were doing well their job, why they don't mention how people have been trained in Rwanda and deployed to kill people in Burundi? Why? This is at least one proof that there is something hidden in terms of covert operations ongoing. And recently, the government of Burundi uncovered, for instance, a document regarding the probable involvement of European Union delegation in Bujumbura in collaboration with an NGO called World Child Holland. The documents we uncovered are clearly showing how some of our partners have been involved in this regime change in Burundi.
Sure, but another issue... Ambassador, if you'd allow me to interject here, the document shows that the European Union helped War Child, a Dutch NGO, evacuate some human rights activists from persecution. How does that spell regime change?
No. The War Child was used to help insurgents who have been involved in killing, involved in the failed coup of May 2015 to escape, not to respond to justice. Okay. This is unacceptable in any country in the world. When people are responsible of crimes, they should go and respond to the crime.
Okay,
otherwise, yes, we need to say clearly that they support the regime change in Burundi.
Okay.
A coup d'etat is for regime change, no?
Okay, understand your perspective. Audace, doesn't the ambassador make a point? He believes that the European Union and War Child were involved not in evacuating human rights activists, but people who were involved in a failed military coup.
I think there is a problem because that government thinks that there is a global conspiracy against it, and it becomes very difficult to deal with that kind of government. What the EU did and is even doing in other countries, they are protecting those who are at risk, human rights activists. And doing that is something that they are proud of, and this is something that saved life. And interpreting this as a plot for regime change, I think it's groundless, and there is no any point that the ambassador made out of this claim.
Okay, so Ambassador Ndabashinze, let's try and stitch some of these things together here. So Audace says that this government believes there's a global conspiracy against it and it doesn't want to face up to the truth. You're saying the European Union is involved in regime change in Burundi. You're blaming Rwanda for killing people. The government has also blamed Rwanda for trying to assassinate an aide to the president. You say the International Criminal Court is biased and you're thinking of pulling out of it. Putting all those things together, it seems as if there's a pattern here to make his point that perhaps this government is paranoid and it believes the whole world is out to get them, and emphasized by the fact that it won't let in any independent investigators to actually find out for themselves. Why don't you let in the investigators so they can find out?
First of all, I have to mention that I never affirmed that the European Union was involved. I said the leaked document is proving a probable involvement, a probable.
Right.
So it's not, I didn't affirm. Another issue, you may be aware about a report produced by a group of experts of Security Council. In this report, submitted to Security Council, brought proof of some people trained in Rwanda and sent to Burundi through DRC. Those people have been arrested in DRC. There is a report. The report was submitted to the Security Council in February last year. And Burundi and DRC requested immediately the Security Council to convene an urgent meeting to address this issue at this stage.
But
no meeting on this fact.
So what I'm struggling to understand here is you're citing the Security Council report here when it comes to proving your point or making your point for you that Rwanda is to blame. But then when I mention the Commission of Inquiry on Burundi, where they say torture is happening and there's grave human rights abuses, you're saying they have no credibility there. So the UN is only credible when it suits your agenda, sir.
No, what I'm saying is if it was a experts are really fair-minded, why they don't mention this case of Rwanda, why they don't work on this report produced by a UN Security Council committee, why this question is untold. Another issue, in February 2016, top U.S. high officials recognized in hearing in the Senate, I was still there as ambassador of Burundi, that there is proof of involvement of Rwanda.
Okay.
You can visit the website
so
of the Senate,
I'd love to bring
why
a
this
Rwandan
question
official
is not addressed.
Very good, sir. And I'd love to bring a Rwandan official on, and I can hold him or her to account, and I can pose all of this to the Rwandan official. We don't have one right now, so let's deal with the accusations leveled at Burundi. Once again, let me go back to the report of the Commission of Inquiry on Burundi, and let me quote this to you. We were struck in our investigations by the feeling of deep and widespread fear running through the testimonies we gathered. Today, we can say that our initial fears concerning the scope and gravity of human rights violations and abuses in Burundi since April 2015 have been confirmed. And they also said we were struck by the particularly cruel and brutal nature of the violations described to us. And now all of this was them interviewing people in camps outside of the country because they weren't let into the country. Can you at least accept, Ambassador, that maybe it's best for your country to let them in, because then if you're saying they're biased or they got it wrong, you can say we let you in to see for yourself. You're not letting them into the country.
I got your point. If people are really fair-minded, if people are really willing to address the issue and address all the aspects of the situation, yes, we allow them to come. But if people are just coming to blame the government, ignoring other aspects of the problem, I mentioned Rwanda, I mentioned about criminals who have been escaped with the help of All Child Ireland. So you see yourself, it's biased. How can we allow a team of experts, so-called experts, who have been producing biased reports, ignoring even the report of Security Council? UN Human Rights Commission body, it's a UN body. Why this report is not taken into account?
Okay.
What is behind? We need the answer to that one. When we have the answer to those questions, when we have the answer to why people have been helped to escape when they are involved in the regime change, some people involved in military coup are abroad, are protected. Some of them are in Rwanda, others are outside. They don't mention them. When those questions will be addressed, yes, a team of experts should be sent to Burundi. But there is many conditions first.
Okay, so we hope a team of experts will be allowed into Burundi at some point soon. There seems to be some hope there. Or are you hopeful that eventually the government will allow independent experts in?
Yeah, I don't think they will allow, because in the oral report that was presented, the chair of the commission said that even the permanent representative of Burundi denied to receive them, even in Geneva. And this was not even in Burundi. This was not an investigation that they were going to do in his office. So if they denied even a meeting, that means that they are not ready to let go in and investigate. And what I think should be discussed here is the ambassador is bringing these issues of Rwanda and all the international institutions, but here we are dealing with lives that are being lost.
Okay, let's talk about those lives.
The report said that
sure.
1,000.
Sure, let me come in.
The report said.
Okay, finish your sentence, sir. There's a slight delay, that's why I apologize, but finish your sentence and I'll come in. Yeah.
The main issue that is on the table is lives that are being lost. The reports indicate that there are thousands of people that have been killed. There are hundreds of people that disappeared, and this is something that is occurring at a daily basis. So the government is justifying those killings. Are they saying that because there is this problem with Rwanda, because there is this problem with this institution, they don't, they cannot respond to what is going on?
Okay.
So that's the main issue there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Let me bring in the ambassador, Ambassador Dabashinze. 400,000, more than 400,000 Burundians have actually fled the country. It's a small country, a small population, so that's a massive amount of people, more than 200,000 internally displaced. Even if we grant you that international institutions might be biased against the country, even if we say the Rwandans might be causing trouble, I don't know if they are, and I'd like to actually hold them to account. But even if we grant all of that, why are so many people fleeing your country and living in refugee camps in Tanzania, in Kenya, and so on, outside the country? They're fleeing for their lives. If things are under control and people are not being tortured and not being killed, why are so many people fleeing, sir?
Let me respond to you. First of all, the media forget to mention that many of them, a lot of them are back home. This is one fact. A second fact, this covered propaganda from the media, from by the report, of course, this propaganda is aimed to create a kind of sentiment of insecurity. Do you think that someone who is in a refugee camp somewhere, when he hear on all of the media that people are shot, of course he will have problems of confidence to go back to Burundi. This propaganda is causing problems. This is what I'm saying. And let me mention it again. If the UN is helping us, if international community is helping us, why all those questions are not put at the table? We are saying we don't fear. Bring all the questions, the question on the table. Why do you select?
Okay.
For which interest?
Okay, sir.
Why do you select?
I have no interest here. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, right? But let me ask you, sir. Let me ask you. Hold on, Odessa, just for a second, Odessa. Ambassador, given that the UNHCR themselves are helping these refugees, and you say many of them are back home, it's just not true, sir. We have reports from all of these camps.
Some of them are back home,
DRC, Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Malawi, Tanzania. More than 400,000. You're saying that the UN is not helping your country, but the UN is the one who's feeding these people and housing these people outside of your country.
I'm not saying the UN is not helping our country. I'm raising some issues we should address to overcome the current situation. Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
I say UN is helping, but UN should help also by producing not by the report. On one hand, you have a team of experts, a Security Council producing report. The report is put in the garbage. On the other hand, you have in Geneva some report, allegations not yet verified, are taken into consideration. It's unfair. Let's bring all of the aspects on the table. Let's bring all of the aspects on the table and discuss on the issues. Discuss on the issue of refugee. Discuss on the issue of involvement of Rwanda. We have proof. Discuss on the issue of the insurgent. Discuss the issue of those who are involved in military coup. This propaganda is aimed to protect those people involved. So now they're transforming them in human rights. You know what it means, a military coup. A military coup, they use military tank, and it's destabilizing a country. And we have a history in Burundi. Let's mention to you. We have a history in Burundi where a president-elect was killed after 3 months in office, and those people who killed him, military as a civilian, are still free today. Why this question is not addressed?
Okay,
they want to repeat the same.
Okay.
Burundi people will react. We never allow those, again, people who are interested in a divide and rule policy to continue to bring death to Burundians. Enough is enough. We suffered a lot.
Okay, so Odessa, does any of that convince you? The ambassador is making an impassioned appeal.
Yeah, I think there is a good point you raised of the flows of people from Burundi to neighboring countries. This is a clear indicator that there is something wrong that is going on. And when he said that there is a propaganda that is going on, you have to know that currently there is no any independent media that is working in the country. Even international media are kicked out, and no one is practically allowed to enter the country and investigate. So one should ask himself what that propaganda is being. How the population is receiving that propaganda. There is no any radio that is broadcasting right now except the government radio and television. So that means that in the far country, in the far region of the country, there is something that is going on that push people to go out, to go outside, and this is the militia in Imbonerakure that are quite controlling all the territory of Burundi.
Odas, so I've got to jump in there because I've got to move on. Odas, allow me to come in there because I've got to move on.
Yeah.
And you know, it is the worst funded refugee crisis in the world. So whatever your politics, is a terrible situation in terms of the refugee crisis. Only 2% of the funds needed have been received, according to the UN. Terrible situation. And we hope for better times for the people of Burundi. Odas Gatavu and Ambassador Ernest Dabashinze, it's been a pleasure having both of you on the program. Thank you very much.